Welcome, friends. Friends still coming?
Okay, so I can't see anything, so you guys will have to let me know when we're going to start, and cue me in when Carrie comes as well, so that I know to go to the last slide.
Okay. I think we can go ahead and get started.
All right. So first of all, just with pacing, we just want to.
Oh, never mind. Hey.
That's your subtle way of announcing that Dr. Rock is here.
Yes.
Sorry, I was late.
No problem at all. We're so happy to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, I am happy to join. One of the things that I've done for the other groups, and I can happily do this for your group as well, is I can share the summer school criteria, but my thought is you probably have all seen that by now. If you haven't seen the summer school criteria and you want me to share it, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I thought it might be best for me to just answer questions. Because at this point, the information's been out there for a few days and I'm thinking you might have the information and I don't need to go over that, but I'm happy to answer questions and or go over all the specifics if you'd like.
I do have a question, Carrie, about distance learners from other buildings and access to the data of who's tracking in regard to summer school qualifications, and what if they don't have any data?
So I would work collaboratively with the sending school. If you're receiving kids who don't have data, I would reach back out to that teacher or that summer school contact and say, we don't have data on these kids. Do you have any? Because if you're just receiving new kids, you wouldn't. My understanding, and I could be wrong, is I think both schools can view the data on those students. Is that correct?
We just received information today from Deb Sawyer about that.
So I would just reach out to your counterpart at the other building and say, we don't know, especially if it's someone new moving to you, we don't know anything about them. Can you share if the student would be a good candidate for summer school, and maybe the sending school completes that, and because that would be who the parent has a relationship with at this point in time.
Okay. Do you know if and maybe somebody else can answer this, on Viewpoint, I didn't have time to dig in, I could access the school, say Madison, but if I sorted it according to who qualifies for summer school, I don't know if they're a distance learner and if they're assigned to my school. That makes sense?
So I would encourage you, Sean, to look at the distance learner teacher.
Okay.
So sort by the distance learning teacher, because then you'll be able to see just those students enrolled in that class, and then that would make it easier for you, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. See, look at that.
Well, there's all new processes. We haven't ever shared kids across buildings. Yeah. We haven't done this report across buildings. So happy to help. And if there are specific kids you're struggling with, just reach out and we can try to problem solve around them.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. There are other summer school questions I can answer?
I have one, and we had a huge discussion about behaviors.
Yep.
When we have tier 2 resource kids going to summer school, and they have marked the significance, or the 4-5 scaling. Previously, they were not sent to summer school, but now they are. What is the protocol about? I just want to make sure. But SPED department saying one thing and SP saying the other. So I just want to clear up what's the protocol?
Yeah. So if you have concerns around students on an IEP that you feel like would not be successful in summer school, I think that's a conversation to bring to your SPED lead. What we're having the SPED team do at this point in time is they're looking at all the students on IEPs in the building and looking at those pieces to ensure that students are in the right spot. And then secondly, what they're looking at, so right now your SPED team is filling out what we call self-sufficiency scores. And that's how our SPED department determines supports for students. So once that's done, we'll compare the self-sufficiency scores with students recommended for targeted and anyone we're concerned about, we send back to the SPED lead and the SPED supervisor and the building principal to take a second look to ensure that summer school their needs can be met in targeted summer school. And that will all happen before this goes out to families. The registration form goes out to families, if that makes sense. Does that help, Chris?
Yeah, that's what my SPED lead, she just wanted that clarified. So she's been coming to me and I said, I'm not sure. So I'm talking to Dr. Rock today. So thank you. That'll make it.
You're welcome. Other summer school questions I can answer for you. If you have unique situations with students that you're looking at your building where things are not making sense, this is particularly happening in the few cases and usually K1 kids where they might not have either their FAST or their math score entered into EPR. You can just give me a call, or your building contact can give me a call. We'll talk through those kids. I've done that with 3 or 4 sites already today on unique situations. So for example, here's an example I can give. We had a student who had kindergarten data from this year, K student, maybe for first grader, did not meet criteria in math. And the FAST data wasn't given within the traditional FAST window because it's a DL learner. And the student met criteria in FAST, but of course that wasn't in Viewpoint. So we had a conversation and I just told the lead to put the comments in the comment field so I can do the override for that. So you might find some unique situations like that. Just call me and we'll walk through if that'd be a situation where we'd do an approval. Other questions or things I can do to support? These are getting easier as we go through the week because you guys are all doing all the work at the building level. The other thing I'll be sending out probably to math specialists, literacy specialists, and building contacts is input on the report that we ran and changes you'd like to see for next year. So someone said to me this morning, it'd be great to have the classroom teacher listed in a column so you could easily sort by classroom teacher. So I'll ask for that enhancement. But if there are things that you think would be helpful, I will be asking for that feedback. And then the second thing that I think would be important for you to know is my goal for next year is that this report will be run and ready to look at prior to conferences like we traditionally do. So this year is just unique because we had students with so many missing data points and we've changed learning models so often we had to do things different. But next year we'll be in a spot where we're looking at just the current year data, and you should have access to this report prior to conferences like you've had in the past, if that makes sense. So teachers will be able to share that information at conference time. That's my goal. This year is just like everything else. We got to do things a little different in 2020, 2021. Mm-hmm. So if you have input and feedback, I will be seeking that out from you at some point in time to make the reports easier to use and, facilitate that process. Other questions around summer school that I could support or help answer?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was having trouble with my mute button.
Okay.
Sorry, Dr. Lee. I was listening to a kindergartner count and it was slow. So I'm sorry I'm late. Somebody may have already asked this question. We had one 4th grade student that was recommended for summer school, and the teacher feels that it was kind of a fluky test anxiety sort of situation. So should she just go ahead and add like the scores that would prove that he's doing well, like with Bridges post assessments?
So what we would ask you to do, Kelly, is work with your building administration on that, make sure they're aware, and then someone does a reach out to the family and just lets them know that technically the student would qualify, but we don't feel like that score is really reflective. And then when the parent agrees with that, then you'll put in that comment field, no summer school per parent conversation, so that we know that the parent is aware and was notified. That happens, I think, is happening more this year in that situation. And or I've had 2 or 3 phone calls today about particularly 2nd graders who might have high MAP scores and the rest of their data doesn't show that. So as you have unique situations, just feel free to reach out. Sometimes people are calling and other people are just shooting me an email with the data, and I can give you advice on how to proceed in those cases. Happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. other questions or things I can do to support. I gave the literacy specialist today my extension. You're welcome to call me about summer school kids. I'm happy to help. It's 61122. I can't guarantee I'll always be at my desk to answer the question, but I will get back to you if you want to have a conversation.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah. Let me know what else I can do to support. I'm happy to help. Thanks for all your work on this. See you later.
I almost hung up. Did anybody else almost do that? Because you're just so used to, you're like, okay, you wave and then you click the yellow button. Oh, okay.
I'm pulling up the slideshow. Hang on a minute.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. We'll be recording this so you can have access to the rest of it later.
And the first slide that comes up just really does talk about the learning frameworks. And that should be the place where teachers are looking at and they're getting the most current, up-to-date information. If there's changes that have been made by the Math Learning Center, we would be writing them in here and putting in advice that we can help support day-to-day interactions. And so we do want teachers to continue to use those learning frameworks. We'll continue to make them throughout the end of the year. And we are using the MLC guiding recommendations as well as looking at the Minnesota standards and ensuring that those things are included in there as well. Any other questions about the learning frameworks? And they should be coming out by the end of the week. So
I just have a
by midnight.
I have a quick question. I know I already emailed you about the first grade question for grading. Kay is having an interesting, so if we look at the learning framework, one of the things that should be graded for Try 2, according to the report card indicators, isn't taught till after spring break. So I know that we can just grade it in Try 3, but here's kind of a silly question since I haven't been in the classroom forever. Is it going to be open for Try 3 and EPR, or am I going to have to remember that?
Once it's open for the rest of the year.
Thank you.
And so if teachers are not able to get all the data that they need from assessments, they can be looking at those, anecdotal, formative assessments, day-to-day kind of information. If they're not able to access it from there, then they can always write the NG and just explain that they will be grading that in trimester 3. So we know that it's a strange year and strange things are happening. So that is also the reason why it's open. And if they need to, they can be making those recommendations. Also, if students didn't do well in the first or the second trimester and now they are at grade level, with intervention work or small group kind of work, then we would, through standards-based grading, expect to go back in and put that in to let the parents know that they are now where they should be.
And just a reminder, make sure, I know the teacher's usual go-to document is that yearly RCI. I know when I taught, I always had it up on my bulletin board so I could see what I was teaching and what I was responsible for each tribe. But remember, that has not been changed. We left that the same. So in years that come, it will remain that way. The grading doc that you need to use is the one that was sent out. So that reflects the changes just for this year.
It's the same thing with the MEG. We've had a lot of questions about, what was in the recommendation or the shifts doesn't match up with what's in the MEG. Well, people download that early on, and some of these decisions about items moving comes, well into the school year. So there's no way for us to to be able to anticipate in a year like this, everything that might be shifted. So it would be impossible for us to be able to go into every teacher's MEG and change the ordering or when something is going to be happening. So I think everybody just has to do the best that they can and use whatever evidence that they have for grading their students when they can.
Any other questions on the pacing or the learning frameworks?
We will be providing learning frameworks for May and that first part in June. But as long as we're on this, the videos will continue through the end of May, but we will not be providing, of course, Number Corner. There is no Number Corner for June, and the BIM videos will not be made for the June lessons either.
Will the frameworks change at all now that the MCA window is moved?
Can you say that again?
Will the frameworks change at all now that the MCA window has moved?
And how has the MCA window moved?
It moved. So, I mean, is that going to make a difference at all, or does it not matter?
I have the MCA window is March 8th through May 7th. Is there been additional shift after that?
Yes.
I think 2 weeks, I think.
It is, now the window closes on the 21st for everything.
The 21st of
Which is good. May.
May. That's great. Well,
Yeah.
They might not change because that information has been shared with everybody. So that is new learning for us.
So, okay, I was just curious, like if there was going to be additional, like, ooh, let's make sure we get that one in before.
Well, so in the learning frameworks, we have marked that there are 3 days, and those, I believe, for all of us are in the April. So that there's 3 days, and that time can be variable because we know that all schools are not going to schedule it at the same point in time. So teachers will maybe have to shift around if they're not going to actually teach those lessons until May. Then they would just bring those lessons up that are into May. So they might have to adjust the timing of those days. But we did put in 3 days, one for like a tutorial and the prep, and then 2 days for them to be doing the MCAs. And in the 4th and 5th grade, we also wrote in that they might have to, or they might look at combining the Number Corner lessons so that they have the most amount of time to be able to be used during their core math time for the MCAs. So
I think it's great news. I hope it stays that late every year.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
Could we repeat those dates for those of us that also, as this is new? What was the window?
All close May 21st for everything.
So it's still open. It still opens March 8th through the 21st now. Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
You kind of wonder why anybody would do it in the middle of March.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know why anyone would do it early.
And so we just included these links with the pacing guides in again, and that just allows you to take a look at what it's going to look like. As Lynn mentioned, there's some switching up that has happened. There's some modules that have been skipped completely. Some grade levels are not getting to Unit 8 at all, and some grade levels are only getting to just, one module in Unit 8. So if you're curious and want to look ahead, or your teachers want to do some planning, the pacing guides are, there's a link here, and then they're also on the curriculum website.
Yeah. So this is kind of that bigger picture view, it's being able to see how things are laid out and what it is that they look like.
And we've pretty much discussed this already. We did include a link here to the folders that has that trimester 2 grading document in it. And I believe, oh, I know we got a date today. Does anybody remember what the date is when the grading for Tri 3 will be released?
I feel like it's in the April newsletter.
Yep, you're right. So the Tri 3 then will be added to that folder as well.
Well, it might be a new folder because looks like, I don't know. They'll be getting the information in the April newsletter.
Yeah. So any other questions about grading?
We have a few instances where there's students not showing up at all and teachers don't know where the student is at. In that case, would you do a no grade, or what would you recommend?
Say you need to talk to your admin about how they would like that handled. So what you're going to put in, and then what you would be adding into the comments section as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, and we just also included a link for the March preview videos for Number Corner. And you can also find those on the BIM website, but it's nice to have them handy, especially I know some of you share these with your teams during PLCs. Okay, we'll move on. Okay, so the grade 2 April Number Corner materials. Hopefully you all read this, and this is going to, I think it was last Friday and last Monday, the cups were sent out for the classroom teachers, the in-person. And as soon as the GLTLs turned in the sheet on Monday, then Tamara started to get cups together for our DL teachers. So our DL teachers are going to be able to have 2 cups for each student, as well as a little bag of soil and seeds. So each student will be able to do their own planting. In the in-person, it's like 4 students per 2 cups. So just a little bit different there. Now, we know that a lot of the soil was moldy or had fruit flies. And so soil has been ordered. And hopefully those orders were turned in on Monday. But if there are some DL teachers that are wanting to put their kits together, they can go ahead and borrow or take the soil from an in-person teacher. And then when the soil is delivered, the in-person teachers will definitely have those by April. So are there any questions about any of that? Super. We had lots of questions on Monday, so it sounds
Did GLTLs get all this information?
They did. This was all sent to GLTLs. It was also sent to the curriculum secretaries. So we had a lot of confusion on Monday, but it sounds like things are, if you haven't heard anything, things must be going well then. All right.
And there are a new writable app from Bridges, so you can get the PDFs of all of the student book, the home connections, but also the unit assessments and the Number Corner assessments are in there. And when students are in on a sheet, they can actually like close out that specific sheet and go to any of the other selections, which includes the assessments. So teachers probably should just know that before they use it, that students will have access to the other assessments. Maybe not advertising that to the whole world, but I would say that using Seesaw and Pear Deck are probably still very good options for us to be using. And
are they looking to change or update that in development? I mean, because it's such a nice thing to have, but when you can access the assessments, it really kind of ruins the whole thing.
Right.
I don't know as much about it as I should, but I did send out a link yesterday to the webinar, which was just under an hour long. And I don't know if any of you had attended that, but that wasn't something that they talked about at that. And unfortunately, I was doing other things while I was trying to listen. So I need to go back and watch it again. But one thing that we know about Bridges is that they're very responsive to questions and concerns, and they're constantly developing and refining things. So I guess I'd like to play around with it more, and then definitely connect with them with suggestions. And I'm sure that they would respond. Maybe not in time to, to impact this upcoming unit, but it might be something, if it's necessary, that they could impact positively soon. Print shop orders. Well, this, in case you haven't heard, this is an unprecedented year. Just thought we could like to hear that word one more time. But people have been asking about print shop order forms, the math order forms for the third trimester. But when we really thought about it, we didn't think it was really probably the most efficient use of paper and money and time, because most of Unit 6 is going to be in Tri-3 for most of our grade levels, and that would have been included in the Tri-2 order, not the Tri-3 order. Most grade levels are not getting to Unit 8, and that would be included in that print shop order. And ones that are going into 8 maybe are doing 2 modules from Unit 7 and 2 modules from Unit 8 or something like that. And so it just seemed like it could be out there, would be a lot of waste. And also teachers may have at least some of what they were using last year, and the number corner assessments are optional. So it just seemed to make the most sense for teams to sit down together, figure out what they need, and use that generic print shop order form if they want to send things in to the district to be printed for them, but not just send off for everything, because there's going to be a lot you'd be getting that you wouldn't be using.
And some teachers may have had stuff left over from last year that they did not use. So if they ordered it in the past, they might have a stack of it sitting there already. So.
And we just included this video just because we're coming into spring and there might be some families that might like to have help with these strategies that we've been teaching. So just a reminder that these strategy videos are available and will continue to be available.
And I just love that picture. Everybody is working together and happy together in talking about math strategy.
3 o'clock. And it's 3 o'clock.
Thanks, Lynn.
Welcome. People were looking for some resources as we look at MCAs, and so these are just links to that document that was so well done in the past, the MCA standards, test specs, examples, and vocabulary. And I did go in and update it with the current number of test items that are available in the online test. So that piece should be up to date. And the slide that would fit in really nicely is not next, so I can't say that.
Well, we could go to it. There we go.
There are additional resources on the server, at the district server. So if you wanted to look for additional resources, there are a lot of them that RET has put out here. So if you wanted those prediction tables for the winter map, I believe they're there for the fall map as well. If you wanted to be looking at that relative difficulty chart, which talks about how the 3rd and 4th grade assessments are not as difficult as the 5th grade assessment, and so that's why there's a variation of scores when you look at that. So just there's a wealth of additional information in that server if you wanted to look there. And then if you want to go back one, we know again that teachers do have a higher breathing as they think about the approaching of MCAs. We're again super excited that they're extended to May 21st. But some people's reactions are to stop teaching and really to go in and drill and kill and do MCA test prep. And we know that the best test prep for MCAs is to be teaching the curriculum. So we really want to continue engaging students in rich curriculum. We do not want teachers to be saying, well, I know this is a strategy that works and I just want my kids to get the right answer. And I'm just going to teach them this one way that I know is going to get them the best score in the MCA. Our quest is to really make sure that we're building that understanding. So we want to continue the process that we've been using all year long. This was a great blog that talks about the different strategies, especially for 5th grade multiplication. And we know that at this point in time, they are exposed to the area model, the 4 partial products, doubling and halving, the ratio table, using quarters, the over strategy, and the standard algorithm. And we know that all of those strategies are not a one-size-fits-all. There's not just one that we should be going to, but we want students to be able to really look at using those strategies and know when is the best point to be able to use them. And there's an organizer that they have that maybe they're going to share a certain strategy, and it walks them through the steps of what kind of problems would be the best kind of problems for me to use this strategy. So I just thought it was a great blog and just a reminder that we need to continue on with what our plan is and not stop and really focus on teaching to the test. We want to be teaching a solid foundation. Any other thoughts or ideas or questions about that?
I just think it's so important that we are focusing on developing mathematical thinkers and problem solvers and not computers. They've got devices for that. As Lynn said, it's not so much about getting the right answer, but it's developing that robust understanding of the properties of arithmetic. That's what we're developing with those different strategies. So if we do focus on one strategy, say the standard algorithm, we're completely missing the boat on what our kids need.
There is also an opportunity to join the MCA review committee. If you've ever gotten a chance to do this before, it's a great committee. You go in and really take a look at specific questions, look at student responses, and you're able to give feedback. And it's a great opportunity if you get a chance to do it. It looks like they are preparing to do that during the summer, I believe. Summer 2021 virtual meetings is what it looks like. So if you're interested, there's a link to register at the top. And Margaret, that's your cue. Do you know anything about
the standard review?
Yes.
I know that we don't know anything.
Wow.
How's that? So we're still waiting. There was a group of superintendents that testified to the state legislature imploring a delay in standard reviews and adoptions because of everything that's going on right now. Districts are feeling like they don't have the capacity to engage in that work at this point in time. It seemed like at the legislative level that there was support for what superintendents were requesting, but we're still waiting for that decision to be made. So we had mentioned before that there was this opportunity coming up, but we don't know yet when that opportunity is going to arise. And as soon as we do know, we will share it with you before we tell anybody else.
So we just have some information here about March 29th, and there will be a short little tutorial that's going to be sent out this Friday to the GLTLs. Most of this is just an independent study that the teachers are going to be doing. So the GLTLs don't have a lot of facilitating that they need to do. They're just basically there to answer questions and make sure that everybody is able to get on and do the independent study.
With the timing of everything, it's just been a challenge to get that tutorial done like we wanted to, and then get it to you well ahead of time. So, you know, maybe you can look at it tomorrow and maybe not. It's trying to get the frameworks done, and you know, just not trying to make excuses, but there's just been a lot on everybody's plate right now. So we will do our best to we are committed to sharing it with people on Friday. But basically, that tutorial is just kind of a walkthrough of the document so that people have a little better understanding of it. It's not rocket science. It's very clearly laid out by Bridges. There just is, you know, maybe a nuance here and there that will just give a little bit more explanation that could potentially be confusing to some people.
When you say it's independent study, we were encouraging people to be together to do that. Is that okay?
Well, it's a self-study, and it would be, we think it would be great for people to have that opportunity to engage in discussion with each other. So, you know, it's part of that half day, either PLC or PD on March 29th, depending on where your principal wanted to put that time. But we think for teams to have that opportunity to engage and discourse with each other about what they are reading and watching, that's just going to make it more powerful.
And it's both reading and watching? Is that?
There is some reading.
Okay, thank you.
How long will it take? Like how many hours, how long?
Maybe
2.5 hours.
Say it again. You both spoke at the same time.
No, I said 10 hours and Lynn said 2.5. Which one do you think it would be?
And then can that time be split up, or should it be all at once? My principal's got some questions. He's trying to figure out the day. So he just wanted to know, could they do it in chunks, or would it be better if it was just 2.5 hours straight?
It could be broken up, I guess, but the point is that we wanted everybody to have that opportunity to engage in that full 2.5 hours on the 29th. So once you see that schedule, you know, it's, I don't know, I'm slightly making this up, but it might be 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 30 minutes, and another 30 minutes or something like that.
Okay.
It's different, kind of like modules or sections.
So we've talked with you about April 5th before. The training for Bridges is going to be on interventions, and it's going to take place via Zoom. There's 2 bands, either the K2 or the 3-5, and that is to enable the vertical conversations.
And we do not have in here, but I don't think it's in here. The DIAD teachers will also be in a session about engaging students and giving formative feedback and using Google Slides and Pear Deck to help get that day-to-day feedback that people might be missing. You know, we know that teachers aren't necessarily able to go around and listen to the strategies in each small group as well as what they've done in the past. So we're just helping them get some additional ideas on how they can send like a ticket out the door, an electronic ticket out the door, and being able to see those student strategies even better. We tried to align math specialists who are in self-contained buildings to be able to go to that session. We know that it didn't happen in every case. We tried to make that happen, but we also had to make sure that we had a math specialist in each of the Bridges sessions. So we did the best we could with that to be able to give them that experience to bring back to their teachers who are not dyad teachers, but the session will also be recorded so that it could be viewed at a later time as well. And we do have math specialists that are leading those sessions, and so we very much support, very much appreciate their support in doing that.
And all the teachers are pre-registered in LMS already.
There have been some shifts because, as most of you are fully aware, with the shifting of populations from DL to in-person or vice versa, there's been some movement of teachers too. Some people are even changing grade level for third try, which just really is mind-blowing, but that's the reality that we live in. So we appreciate it if people can let us know if somebody is moving from one grade to another so that we can get them into the right session, give them the appropriate link.
And we do have very full sessions. We had to put all of K2 together in the morning. So those sessions are very, very full. So we only have one math specialist assigned to support the Math Learning Center presenter. So if something happens and you're not able to be in there, please let us know right away so that we can make some changes and we can make sure that we do have a support person in each of those sessions. And we also are encouraging, if there are student teachers, and you probably saw that in a previous slide, that those student teachers are present with their cooperating teacher, and so that we don't have additional people logged into that session, and they can also then be having collaborative conversations about the presentation.
So just to confirm, I do have a teacher that switched, and I did send it to you guys, and it will be a flip-flop. One's not teaching anymore, so then you guys will take care of it on their end, and they don't have to register in LMS. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
It's a good idea to have the teachers check. Anything that's already been sent to us about teacher shifts has been passed on to Sarah Hamilton, and that adjustment should have been made. So if you just want to verify with them that they are in with the K2 group for your school, that would be great.
And then there will be a core support PD session offered during the afternoon of April 5th. And the core support teachers are just going to be looking at those workplaces now that are student facing, and as well as the math at home resources, and then how to best use those with their kids.
We have continued on with a series of articles promoting instructional practices that promote equity in the math classroom. And we're tying into the SMPs and the work of Zaretta Hammond at this point in time, and we'll probably continue with that discussion till the end of the school year. We just think that that's such a beautiful tie-in with how she has articulated what she has learned in her work about students who are experiencing learned helplessness, children who are culturally and linguistically diverse, oftentimes are that way because that's been their learning experience. They've been in their classrooms or tutoring or whatever. They've been the focus has been lower level skills and memorization and so on, where really if we want to close that opportunity gap, we need to help develop children's critical thinking skills. So the Standards for Mathematical Practice provide a beautiful framework for that. So if we can encourage teachers to be more intentional about that work, highlighting these practices with their students, drawing attention to them, naming them, valuing them in the classroom, that will help the teacher be more cognizant of including that in his or her practice, and it will make the students more self-aware of themselves using those practices too.
And we've already heard from Dr. Rock, so we can go ahead and skip that. And that's all we have. So I'm going to stop presenting, and if anybody has any questions or concerns, we can address those.